Today's guest successfully scaled legendary D2C brand Kalo from $0 to $40 million in just 4 years.
So targeting the right people and just putting the product in the right hands, that was all the foundation of starting those deals with those people.
And the secret behind this explosive growth? An influencer marketing strategy that got a little known product into the hands of LeBron James, Steph Curry, and many more.
It started with unnamed people from the NFL, and then you just start building awareness. People start talking about it. Sure enough, you're working with Steph Curry and sending product out to LeBron, and he's wearing the stuff.
Cody Wittick, co-founder of Kinship and the architect behind Kalo's explosive rise, turned the influencer marketing world on its head.
Kinship at the beginning was, okay, I saw the power, and then I saw that content perform in the ad account. And so that was kind of like the playbook.
And in today's episode, he reveals why most brands are overcomplicating influencer marketing.
Unfortunately, this was like way before the time of like all these tools that come out that make it so much easier. So I was doing all this stuff manually. But again, at the end of the day, people overcomplicate it. It's really a human-to-human relationship.
How seeding products at scale beats chasing celebrity deals.
A huge part of that growth was influencer. So we partner with like major influencers, celebrity talent.
And why finance is more important than media buying if you want to scale in today's world.
What we're really focused on, it's kind of like the system by which we're coming alongside and inject that system into the brand to see scale and growth.
So if you're a founder trying to crack growth in 2025, you need to hear this one.
All these things are ways that you can get a lot better. Honestly, the way that we're doing landing pages is KISS, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? Like, don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to.
Hey guys, if you're enjoying the videos, why not consider subscribing? We drop bi-weekly content that will help you improve your business right here on the channel. Cody, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's a pleasure to have you.
What's up, Jordan?
Cool. I want to kind of get straight into your background because I know you've done quite a lot of different stuff, and I believe you started off in-house at Qalo. Can you just walk through the journey and where you kind of came from and where you got to today?
Yeah, I mean, the journey is 30,000 foot views. I was running an influence marketing program at Kalo. I was the creator of the silicone wedding ring, went from 0 to 40 million in like 4 years. And a huge part of that growth was influencer. So we partnered with like major influencers, celebrity talent, and that we were running their like testimonials via Facebook ads. That was kind of the blueprint to our growth. Obviously there's other things, but those, I don't know, probably 25 to 50% of it is just like really powerful. And then, started the agency like 4 years after doing that for a while.
So obviously, massive name in the D2C space. And when you were kind of setting up that ambassador list or influencer program, you had some pretty impressive names, right? So I think LeBron James is on there, a bunch of others as well. How do you get in front of these guys and how do you get them on board?
I mean, it all started with product seeding. We were just literally sending out products. I think it was still unique of enough products at the time that it stood out. And if you're targeting the right people, I mean, it's like people that care about family and care about their spouse, stuff like that. So it wasn't the Conor McGregors of the world, I guess you could say. It's also unique, right? Like it's not like another watch brand. But yeah, so targeting the right people and just putting the product in the right hands, that was all the foundation of starting those deals with those people. Okay.
So is it also the fact, this isn't day one you're getting LeBron James? Is that a build up over a massive period of time?
For sure. I mean, it started lower levels, started with, minor league baseball players. It started with, like unnamed people from the NFL. And then you just start building awareness. People start talking about it, start seeing it. Then you're putting distribution behind it. And then, sure enough, you're working with Steph Curry and sending product out to LeBron, and he's wearing the stuff.
And for those guys, those huge names, how does that relationship come about? Is that kind of organically they're messaging, on Instagram, or is it, via agents and kind of their partners?
Mix of both. I mean, certain people we had directly DM'd, and then definitely people that we worked through their agents. Unfortunately, this was like way before the time of like all these tools that come out that make it so much easier. So I was doing all this stuff manually. But I think, again, at the end of the day, people overcomplicate it. It's really a human to human relationship. I was an athlete, and so like doing a lot of this stuff was just, I felt like I was just locker room talk. And just, when you're talking to these guys, they can tell when someone's super nervous or like they feel like they're being worshipped by this person versus just like you're a homie and you're talking to them. And I think where people mostly go wrong is like they try to tell their whole brand story in one message and expect them to read it. And it's just kind of like a turn off, It's like that first date and you just talk the whole time and sharing, well, when I was 5 years old, I blah, 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 right? Like, just like, okay, boring. So rather than like looking to provide them value, which is always was my approach.
On that point and kind of, talking to providing value, simplifying and just being kind of genuine, are there any other common mistakes that you think that brands or, agencies in the influencer space make when they're kind of trying to run these relationships or just build out, a general scheme?
Yeah, asking for something in return. Just basically like, again, going back to the dating example, you're just asking for their hand in marriage on first date type of thing. I would just make it all about them, give, and it'll come back around.
That is kind of counterintuitive though, right? Because ultimately you're giving for content or for some kind of hope of building a relationship. So do you literally just put it out into the ether and hope some people like it and kind of reciprocate the energy?
Giving doesn't mean that there's not self-interest. I think it's naive to think that you're not. Obviously, like every one of these messages that I'm giving, I was hoping that it would turn into something. I don't think having self-interest or being naive about that, I think would just be disingenuous and not true, right? But again, it's still coming from a place of like, I want to provide them value, and that's probably just the best way to build any relationship, and that's just how the world works. Yeah, but it is a numbers game because not everyone's going to reciprocate that.
And are you going straight in with an ask in those kind of initial messages, or are you just like, hey, I want to, give you stuff?
No, yeah, just I think you'd love the product. Would love to send you some. No strings attached. Truly mean the no strings attached.
Okay, and then I guess you've done this, built out this Kalo side of things, a few years back. What advice would you have today? And I guess here I'm kind of getting at like these big names, are they driving significant ROI in 2025, or is it better to go with smaller influencers, passionate followings, etc.?
Oh, 100% smaller influencers. Don't take my experience with LeBron and all these big names as like proof of concept. The reality was that our army of small influencers was way bigger than our celebrity and big tier people. Yeah, I would definitely like for the everyday run of the mill brand that's listening to this, don't waste your time thinking about David Beckham and the people that are huge names. You can waste a lot of time and energy and also just a lot of money. So I would definitely focus on the 50,000 follower mom versus the 500,000 all day, every day.
And do you think the influencer kind of model is changing over time and has changed since you were doing this at Kalo?
From a human to human like relationship standpoint, no. I think again, it's still human to human interaction. So a lot of those same principles I think still apply. Obviously, the industry is way bigger. There's a lot more money involved. There's the affiliate whole thing was not really a thing when I was doing it. So that's a huge change. Obviously, the platforms that have changed. And I think the willingness for people to just create content. And obviously, also some of these platforms, the way that they work, right? Like TikTok, for example, it doesn't really matter how many followers you have. It's more so about your engagement. That was very different. It was kind of like those were synonymous. So changes, but yeah, also some similarities for sure.
Okay. On the affiliate side, do you think the kind of pay per post or kind of pay for retainer of posting, does that mean it's less important now?
I just don't think anybody should do it. I know other people that do it at scale for low amounts of money, and maybe that after a while that starts to make sense. But the brands that I know that are doing that are like 9 figures. So for the 7 figure brand listening to this, maybe I wouldn't be throwing upfront cash and then just it's like day trading on the stock market. Not a huge fan of that either. I don't think that's a smart way to invest your dollars. I wouldn't do that with influencer either.
And then, yeah, what are you doing today then? So, Kinship, are you still running kind of similar models?
We still do an influencer seeding program as part of one of our creative pipelines to set up content for the ad account. So that's from how my experience at Kalo translated to Kinship at the beginning was, okay, I saw the power of getting product into influencers' hands, and I saw how people would post even without me asking for anything in return. And then I saw that content perform in the ad account. And so that was kind of like the playbook for a lot of people. And we've obviously expanded, and we can probably talk about that today. But we still do that program primarily, number one, as a pipeline for content for the ad account, which I still think and believe actually even strongly or stronger today that it's the most cost-effective route to generate high volume, high variety of content for the ad accounts, and you're getting organic distribution as well. So we still do that. We have other creative pipelines too, but definitely people still think of us for that.
I want to get on to kind of the other services you offer at Kinship in a second, but just double tapping on what you've said there. Why is it the most kind of cost-effective, efficient way to kind of get set up in the ad account?
Well, one, it's always going to be your cheapest CPMs, right? Like all it's costing you is your COGS plus shipping to get these people that are posting organically for free. So it's always going to be your cheapest CPMs outside of people that are just, willingly posting about you. And then also the scale of which you get high volume of content for the cost on a price per asset basis is always going to be the cheapest compared to the studio shoot. And it might not be if you compare it and then like the volume to the amount of assets to like the price per asset is just unparalleled. Again, numbers game, you got to reach out, like we reach out to 500 folks every single month, right? So on average, 100 people actually get product. 30% of those people end up posting. They post on average 2 to 3 times. That's 75 to 90 posts. And then we edit that content. That's over 100 assets. For most brands, COGS and shipping, if it's $50 and under, you're talking like $30 an asset, right? Like it's just very, very low cost.
Okay. And those kind of numbers and the funnel that you just talked about there, is that what brands should expect? So, 500 outreaches, 100 replies, etc.
100 accept the gift, 30 of those people that receive the gift end up posting. Yeah. That's kind of like industry agnostic from a macro level. Averages. Some are higher, some are lower.
And am I correct in saying that you also do this every month? So it's not just when you're getting set up, it's ongoing?
Ongoing, yeah. I mean, that's the best world. I mean, one of my talking points right now is just like in an AI world with like creative that you don't know if it's real or not. The best way that you can stand out is having these native to the feed, shaky camera, like as raw as possible type of creative in the ad account. That's going to be your best conversions versus like the highly produced and kind of like disingenuous suspect audience that they don't know if it's real or not. That's why I think influencer seeding is even more important in 2025 and beyond.
For sure. Okay. And then when you're putting that in the ad account, is that you whitelisting their posts, or what does that process look like?
Want it to be branded first, and then you can always add that whitelisting tool to the tool belt.
I feel like everyone is kind of talking about whitelisting these days. Is there a reason why you don't kind of go with that right out the gate?
I feel like everyone's been talking about it for like 10 years, to be honest. I mean, we've seen it be a 50-50 coin flip. So you can kind of just see like, I don't really, 50% of the time at working, I don't want to put all my time and energy if it's just going to be a coin flip. Again, like our hypothesis, and this is what I would advise any brand, is just if you have a certain influencer that you work with, run it through the branded. If it starts crushing, then add whitelisting as another way to find scale.
Okay. And in terms of the demographic of those influencers that you're looking at, are you sticking with one kind of demo and just rinsing and repeating, or every month you may be mixing in different types?
Yeah, it's really up to the brand usually, but and also depending on the product. But there's a lot of ways that you can test this. So obviously, if you're finding success, double down, but you can also double down and also diversify at the same time. So especially with like outreaching to 500 people at once, right? You can split that 250, you can split that in a variety of different ways.
Talking about Kinship then, so this is obviously kind of step one and how you guys got started or how you got involved. What other services do you offer and where's the focus now?
Well, it's more e-commerce growth, just from like getting involved on the P&L level of view, forecasting the business, how we set accurate targets. We need to know every cost center. So therefore, that's why we forecast. Not like set and forget it forecasting, but just like every single month we're in the P&L. And that's how we view partnership with the brands that we come alongside today. So we're not interested. I mean, obviously we run ads, like we've talked about a little bit thus far. So paid search, paid social, but we're not interested in doing that in a silo. So like trying to make the dashboard look as sexy as possible. I think there's a lot of issues with that. One, because we don't know if it's actually driving the business toward where you want it to go as the founder. Two, there's a lot of ways that I can try to make more money by just manipulating view through attribution, I don't know, et cetera, et cetera. And so we want to get involved in that side of things. So that's kind of like step one and really the filter by which we view everything. It's very data driven, financially driven. And then we just go execute within these ad platforms. And one of the ways that you can obviously affect performance is through creative. So influencer, we already talked a lot about. That's one of the things. And then we have ways by which we can get UGC content from professional creators, and then three, through your customers. That's another way pipeline that we get lots of content. Those are three of the pipelines that we have set up for brands. Yeah, what I'm really describing is like the way that I talk about ourselves is like we're offering a system, not necessarily a set of services where like by which people come and pick and choose, but this is the system. So when you're asking like what we're really focused on, it's kind of like that's what it is. It's the system by which we're coming alongside and injecting that system into the brand to see scale and growth.
Do you ever get pushback from brand owners on not following your system?
Oh, sure. I mean, you're an agency. Welcome to the club of pushback. But I think pushback's healthy. But ultimately, if they're onboarding, they're bought into the system usually, right? They're at least 80% of the way there.
And how do you position that to them in the kind of pre-onboarding process or in the sales process? How are you getting them bought into your system?
I think it's fairly easy because we're able to demonstrate the results, demonstrate like what we've done, also demonstrate weaknesses in the brand in the sales cycle, because for me personally, like I do forecasting and get P&L level view, like sign NDAs, everything in the sales cycle itself. So by the time they're onboarding, it's a very actually seamless transition, and we've already signed the NDAs. They give them access to the ad accounts, and so it's a very much thorough audit into the business. It actually gives us a pulse on like the current trajectory of the brand too. Like, are we signing up to fail because they're going to put all their eggs in us as like a savior? And that's, as you know, I'm sure is probably a bad position as an agency to be in. So,
and just kind of going back to the financial forecasting point, are there certain commonalities you see in a lot of brands of where they're going wrong, or what is maybe overweight or underweight in the P&L?
Honestly, it kind of depends. I'm sure that's a terrible answer for people listening to this, but yeah, I mean, common issues I would say is having the wrong targets. Like, right, like they might think that they need to achieve this high ROAS, but they have great LTV. So the hack is to actually have as low as NC ROAS, or AMER is what we say. Acquisition MER, having as low as target as possible is probably the best thing that they can do, because they've only been focusing on their first order contribution margin, for example. Some other brands, like you just see hidden costs that are extremely high. So their cost of delivery, meaning like all associated variable costs to get the product to the customer's door, is astronomically high compared to the market rate. Like they're paying 30% shipping, for example, or their COGS are just really high. Sometimes some of those things are just kind of by nature of the product that they sell, and there's not much they can do besides like drive that down by a percentage point or two. And then others, like one of the advantages of running a D2C business is having their OPEX fixed expenses be low, and they just have extremely high OPEX, and it's gotten bloated over the years. And so driving that down. So, and then, what's the fun part for me is like seeing really wasted ad spend too. So that's a common mistake, is just like a $10 million brand trying to diversify, and they're listening to the 9-figure brands that are running TV ads, and they're trying to diversify, and it's just like, man, you're just lighting money on fire. You don't need to be doing that at this stage in your life. So there's a lot there, but there's always something to pick apart usually.
And is this kind of P&L analysis ongoing, or is it, massive deep dive when you start on and nothing else? So it's ongoing.
Well, the deep dive, obviously is upfront, but it is something that we're reconciling each month and then reforecasting the business over the next 12 months, every single month, as real data comes in.
And you talk there about kind of on the ad side, often focusing on the wrong stuff. So like a ROAS target. What should the business target, and how are you walking founders through the goals or their goals?
Sometimes it's not necessarily walking them through usually 90% of the time, I feel like the brand owner themselves already has somewhat of a goal, even if it's not the most concrete thing of like, hey, I want to get acquired, one day or in 2 to 3 years, or this is a family business that I want to pass down, right? Like these are some of these goals that I think most people have in their head. And if they don't, then I'm just trying to get them to get outside of like year over year comparisons and just be like, hey man, this is how much profit you had last year. Maybe you have a less stressful life if you just don't try to chase this revenue target and maybe, have less revenue, but more profit. And so it's just, I think making people realize that your target is directly tied to your goal, and also taking in consideration your business in terms of like your model, your category. So like one product, one SKU brand that has terrible LTV, like you just can't, you have to have a high ROAS, and you have to have low fixed costs. Otherwise it's going to be really hard to keep that high ROAS, right? So like all these things kind of play together versus, some of our many brands that we come alongside, they have incredible LTV or decent LTV. And so it's just finding that perfect balance of like, how does this shake out to the profit percentage that you guys are ultimately trying to hit? And then we'll see and track this over real time. I think that one of the unique things by which we do forecasts is we're using historical inputs to actually look at the trajectory of the brand. This isn't like black magic, like, oh, I want to hit 50 million next year and I'm a $2 million brand, right? Like anybody can put that in a spreadsheet. So we're using historicals. What has been your recent customer repeat rate? What are your fixed costs? What is your gross margin now? Not like what you hope to be. Hope is a bad strategy, as we all know. That's what makes, I would say, anybody forecasting, like it needs to be based in historical inputs to draw an accurate output.
So are there almost 3 steps to this process? So it's kind of step 1, North Star goal. Is it exit maybe? Step 2, it's kind of, what do the financials look like to get there, and how do we build that financial profile up? And then it's kind of business category model, etc., where it's like, is it LTV? Is it, first time purchase? ROAS should be the...
Yeah, no, it's a great way of putting it.
Okay. And then you just, month on month, I guess you're kind of checking to make sure that you're on that roadmap.
Yeah, constantly. I mean, the point of the forecast is to actually show you where you're off, not where you're right. So the goal is not to be 100%, right? Like you want to be off. Now, you obviously don't want to be super off because then your forecast is just like bad. But it's to show you like where the gaps are, and so you can course correct.
And how should founders think through that kind of first principle of, balancing aggressive growth and, top line, chasing that versus like, profitability?
You need cash is king. You need dollars to be able to invest in growth. Usually the 10%, 5%, I would say is aggressive growth, like end up 5% bottom line at the end of 12 months is aggressive growth. 0% is like really aggressive with funding. Like you have private equity, you have VC money, and then 10% or above. I think you're kind of stable. 15% and above, especially you're looking to kind of pass this on to the next generation. And that's where those 3 factors kind of play into the goals and optimization that you're looking for.
Okay. And will you mentioned kind of funding there, will you be advising brands on routes to go down with debt or equity funding?
We have a lot of those partners, like our common friend at GW, a lot of those founders and that we can point to, but we're not getting involved in that. If they already have, those partners in place, great. If they don't and are looking for that, then we can obviously point those people in that direction.
So that's kind of dependent on their goals. You'll say, maybe we'll make an intro.
Yeah, for sure.
That's it.
100%.
Okay, cool. I want to kind of move on now and talk about the kind of other creative pieces that you guys do. So you mentioned, the UGC side of things. And I think you also, you focus a lot on human content, and CGC, I think is another phrase I've seen from you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, can you just talk to the kind of those different kind of attributes, I guess, that you kind of look at on the creative side?
Yeah, from UGC, I mean, these are professional actors at the end of the day. I mean, I think every brand in the world has heard of UGC, even if you're using it as just like a lump term to group all human content into. The way that I would just say, like actual UGC creators, it's become a whole industry of just these people, whether they're doing it full time or part time, is they've built a portfolio of content that they produce for brands. And I would say it kind of does get a bad rap because people are just like slanging products and they're not posting, but it's just content for that account. But what I've seen and what we found, and we have 5,000 plus UGC creators in our database, is that most of these people, they're not creating content for products that they don't like or want to or interested in. So there's obviously there's some buy-in there, even if they are getting paid to produce the content. So this is like your cookie cutter, 1 round of approval, creative brief, the whole 9 yards. And then CGC, we've seen it be, this is your most authentic, probably least professional in terms of these people probably have never gone on camera and created content before. So we really guide them, hold their hand. But it's your most authentic. It's coming from your actual customers, people that bought previously without being necessarily impacted or informed or driven to a purchase. Although that's actually that's a separate tangent for another day. Obviously, they were influenced by some ad, right? But they bought without incentivization necessarily, and so yeah, we incentivize them further with store credit or free month subscription or something like that in exchange for video testimonials or submissions. We do that through like email and SMS, and that we set up on the brand side to encourage that. And then yeah, we start collecting content. So we've seen anywhere on the CGC side, customer generated content, be anywhere from 0.5 to 1.5 submission rate, just based on their email size. So if you have 100,000 customers, this could be 500 videos over time, right? Like obviously not on one email, but it's just ongoing. It's just an ongoing flow. So those are two. We already obviously talked about influencer seeding. So those three play really nicely together because influencer is kind of like that perfect world of authentic, because it's no strings attached, and professional, least authentic, most professional UGC. And then CGC is most authentic, least professional. So it's a good little mix.
Okay. And are all of these content types video focused?
CGC 100% video, UGC 100% video, and then influencer it's open ended. So you get probably 60% conservatively video.
Okay. And will you create, your own statics for brands, like us versus them types of images on?
We do that through 4.0. We do that through static, actually. We have systems in place that we built as 4.0 is kind of being released that we started training on like millions of ad spend. Again, the point of AI is not to be perfect. So it's going to be different from a graphic designer. But for us, it's one, your customer doesn't know, especially for the way that we set up the ad accounts is, we're driving towards new customers, new visitors. So you're not going to notice if you have 4 bullet points on your packaging. It's not going to notice if AI gets 3, right? Like, so some of these things that like hurdles that we try to get our clients over on AI because AI still is kind of taboo. But we do have those capabilities. What we find most of the time too is like a lot of brands already have a lot of beautiful like static imagery. They've invested in that over the years. So the way that we can really provide value is that human forward content, but we have added that pipeline of creating ads, and we use a lot of data and information to create those ads through AI.
Okay. And for every brand that you work with, will they get all of these kind of services and you kind of double down on what works, or how does the kind of mix of the different creative types work?
It depends on how much they're spending and how much they can afford. Right? Because if we're doing all 4 on a monthly basis, it's pretty pricey. If we're doing 1, it's on the lower end. So usually it just depends on their life cycle as a brand and where they are revenue wise and how much they're spending.
Can you just give kind of rough ballpark numbers in terms of monthly ad spend to justify each of, or 1 versus 4 of the different creative types?
Yeah, common question. There's not like a perfect science. I wish I could say for every 150K of ad spend, there's like, we need X number of assets. The answer is always more. Like you always need more. We always want to give the ad account more. this goes into like the way that we actually structure that account to only spend money if you're making money or hitting our efficiency target. So that's kind of baseline. We want more in that account, more opportunities to fund scale, efficiency. Two, if you're spending £50,000 or $50,000, like you don't need 1,000 assets in that account. It's just one, you don't even have that capability because of the ad limits. So you probably have 250 ads that you can potentially launch. So influencer seeding can do that in a month. In combination of your other creative, we could be maximizing that. So that's kind of like the nuance of that question. Now, if you have 1,000 ad limit, obviously we can do more ad creatives, and we can set you up to really scale your ad spend really effectively. And we've done that with many clients where they were sitting at 150 ads, and we took that to over 700, and we tripled ad spend at our efficiency target. So that's just like some of the power of what creative volume can do, as long as you hold performance to accountable, and you can do that through something called cost controls.
And that is what I wanted to kind of go into next. You mentioned there the kind of ad account structure, efficiencies. Talk to me, how does that work in reality? Like what levers are you pulling there?
Something proprietary to Kinship is just something called a cost control. It's a cost cap, bid cap, or target ROAS. You, the brand, this goes into forecasting where that's a perfect marriage. It's just like you, the brand, know the financial outcome that you're looking for from the entire business to new customer acquisition to the in-out account CPA that you need ultimately to level up to what I just said. Facebook does not know that, for example. So you need to give it guide rails to work with them. And that's what those cost controls are. They control the cost that you're willing to spend on a CPA basis, cost per acquisition. So you want to hold that steady. And then how you solve for spend and unlock more spend and maximize volume is through primarily creative to offers is another huge lever as well.
I want to come back to kind of offers and on-site stuff in a minute, but sticking with the kind of ads point, am I correct in saying that it's social and search, or is it just kind of meta?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do those kind of strategies differ across different platforms?
From a cost control standpoint, we keep Google accountable to our targets as well. So nothing different there. But obviously the nature by which those platforms interact are very different. So Meta definitely, demand generation versus Google demand capture, Amazon demand capture. And like from a Google perspective, you'd want to have your brand campaign, someone typing in Nike, you want a very, very, very high res expectation, like 15x. And then non-brand, we actually set the same target as we do on Meta. So if Google can acquire new customers the same as Meta, then yeah, let's spend. What we find by and large is that it's not as efficient, just by nature of what I just said with the platforms, the way that they work, right? There's already some intent there versus Meta, you're discovering something entirely new that maybe you've never discovered before.
And with your kind of system and, prescribed, this is what we're doing approach, is that from day one, it's all platforms, and is it dependent on kind of these controls and the efficiency, or is it, one thing at a time from a platform perspective?
For most of the brands that we're coming alongside, the 5 to 50, $5 to $75 million brand, Meta is still like your hero platform, and Google, and like they're on Amazon, so they might be running Amazon ads. It really depends. Ideally, they obviously already have this set up, so we're just taking it over. If they haven't added it, then we would strongly actually ask and suggest. Most people are running Meta at a bare minimum, but that they would set up Google as well.
Okay. And do you guys touch TikTok?
We do run TikTok, not TikTok Shop, but we run TikTok ads. You can kind of see by the way that I am talking about it. It's just not the next best dollar spent from what we've seen, but we can run cost controls on there as well. They were smart in copying Meta. As far as like the ads manager, we've just not seen it be apples to apples, like we're even close, really.
I want to kind of circle back to the offers point. How much do you get involved in, offers, landing pages, and what happens after the click?
Extremely, at least on a new customer acquisition. From an offer testing, we use a lot of Shopify data, and the way that we can come alongside, and it's actually a service, is like offer testing, LP development, like do two LPs a month. We use Shopify data to come up with like, hey, what are the top products that people are buying, what top two product combinations are people buying most often, 3, 4, as a way to come up with bundles. What's a high product, low COGS, like high value, low COGS item that you can offer at checkout for free? Like some of those things, we're using data to actually come up with these offers, and then we're pairing that with a landing page really effectively. So to come up with that strategy.
Explaining offers to someone that isn't like the most well-versed, what would you say an offer is?
Good question. At baseline, offer is the product and price and what's someone willing to pay for it. I mean, product loosely, right? Like what is the product that could be multiple products, but what is it and how much is it is like the offer really.
And in testing different offers, you mentioned there kind of bundles and some other stuff. Are there any kind of specific examples of offers that you've tested that worked kind of really well from that kind of macro point?
Yeah, both of those. I mean, both of the examples that I brought up, like the free gift at checkout, right? So like buying their hero SKU that is the best seller, or even a number 2 bestseller, and just pairing that with like something that is high value, high perceived value, but like costs you basically nothing to add it. So it doesn't change the unit economics too much. It is becoming a winner in that account because it's like, actually it becomes even more valuable than maybe their best selling product. That's example 1. Number 2 has just been like different bundles at different time periods, right? Like a Father's Day bundle or buy 4, get 4, like just stuff like that. That's been really.
Okay. And when you're testing offers, what metrics are you looking at to evaluate success?
I mean, it all comes back to the customers getting acquired at our efficiency target. That's the same thing, really.
Okay, so it's not kind of landing page conversion rate or anything like that.
Oh, sure, but I mean that's also reflected. That's kind of going hand in hand, right? So we're looking at conversion rate. Obviously, if conversion rate is doubling, that means we're acquiring even more customers at our efficiency target. Talking
landing pages then, so what do you think of when you're kind of like optimizing or testing some of these landing pages? What levers are you pulling on this side? Similarly to what I was just talking about, like different eliminating distraction, eliminating other things for people to do that other than just buy the dang product. Eliminating distraction meaning like there's not a pop-up happening right when I land on the page and all I have to do is buy the product. Thinking of creating a synonymous experience, so the ad that I just saw when I click on and land on the landing page is actually the same ad. All these things are ways that you can get a lot better, and just keeping it. Honestly, the way that we're doing landing pages, it's KISS, KISS, keep it simple, stupid, right? Like it's don't reinvent the wheel if you don't have to. Okay, and how much time are you spending kind of optimizing headlines and changing color schemes of that landing page? I mean, I feel like that's in margins. Perfect. Well, Cody, thank you so much for coming on. Just kind of to round things off, for listeners who maybe want to get in touch or find out more about what you guys do, where can they do that and what kind of brands are you typically working with? I would say, I said 5 to 75 earlier, maybe 3 to 75 annual revenue. Category agnostic, but always, even if you aren't in that range, always down to help. So you can just reach out to me on Twitter, or LinkedIn, or Instagram, YouTube. Usually just typing in my name is a good place to start. And then our website is kynship.co. For sure. And it sounds like in that audit process, brands are getting a lot of value from you, right? Yeah, we don't charge. So it's completely for free. I've thought about it many times for how much time that I invest towards that, but we don't charge. It's free. It's fun. And you'll leave, even if we end up not working together, you'll leave with a lots of great insights and tips. Well, thank you, Cody. And I will link those links in the description, but thank you again for coming on. Yes, sir. Thank you. Cheers. Scaling an e-com brand is hard. That's why we're on a mission to share as much info as we can to help make it easy. From weekly interviews with the biggest names in the space, to case studies, brand breakdowns, and tips and tricks, and much, much more. Subscribe so you don't miss out.